Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with a Kick. We are here. I am Xander, that is Keegan. And you know what? Things are looking on a brighter side for some of us here. Others, I think it's just a long slog till the end of the season, personally. But for some of us, I think we might have something to be happy about for once. But before we say anything in there specifically, anything you want to say before we start in with it?
It was a tough weekend, picks wise. I texted you this. It was a classic. As we'll see, I got the first two picks correctly. I was feeling great. Did not get a single one correct after that, except for Brighton beating Southampton. But it was an interesting weekend for standings movement.
Yeah.
A couple of teams dropping points that are actually pretty big.
Yeah, your perfect pick there from Aston Villa and Liverpool way back when really pulled you through there. You still ended up in positive units because of that.
Come on.
Really, it was just because of that. Outside, not great. I did win the weekend. I will go ahead and put that out there because it doesn't happen super often. But, you've almost got 100, I think you have over 100 units on the favorites this season, though. So, that speaks volumes, I think. We'll go ahead and get into the review proper real quick. Starting last Friday on the 21st, we've got a nice tidy 4-0 victory for Brentford over Leicester. And really, this one was never really close. Never felt like these were two teams both playing the same match. Brentford was coming out pretty early on. I mean, the 17th minute, Wissa gets the first one. 10 minutes later, Mbuemo. 5 minutes later, Norgard. And it was sort of a coast there to the end with a Fabio Carvalho capper in the 89th minute.
Yeah, Brentford, as I mentioned in the preview, it was going to be one of those games where it's the classic. Brentford's been established a little longer at this point in their Premier League reign. Leicester's still trying to get used to being back in the Premier League. And it showed. Leicester did not show a lot of poise or maturity in this one.
No, and I don't know that Leicester should be getting very used to being in the Premier League at this point with how things are shaking up table-wise. We'll get to that a little later on, though. Next up after that, we've got a 2-2 draw between Everton and Manchester United. This one started off well for Everton, but Manchester United, got to give them props when props are due. They stuck with it. They kept their heads high and managed to come back in the second half. 72nd minute goal by Bruno Fernandes, and then 80th minute by Manuel Ugart. Pulling draw and getting a result at Goodison Park.
Yeah, my 2-0 prediction was looking real nice.
Yeah?
Till Man U decided to play well for once. So, big draw for them, though.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty huge points. Didn't want to drop all three there for sure. From there, we move to one of the surprise results of the weekend. Arsenal loses at home to Jared Bowen and them Hammers of West Ham.
Yeah, this one, Arsenal did not look like they played with a ton of fight.
No.
The Bowen goal just kind of came out of nowhere there right before the half. And then West Ham just hunkered in. Yep. Didn't do a ton. The Lewis Skelly red. Honestly, that was just a karma moment from like 3 or 4 weekends ago whenever his red card was, the suspension was rescinded. It shouldn't have been given. I was happy to see this red card given. So, Arsenal didn't play well for sure, and it shows in the result.
Yep, and it's a big result because they had a chance to get more points back on Liverpool with the draw coming in the midweek action last week for them, but every time that we see some stumbles up top, it seems to trickle down somehow to the other teams chasing. So we'll see another instance of that. We'll see many instances of that actually later on in the match day. But we'll continue to move on down through the results. 2-1 This is the one that I was mentioning beforehand. My Wolves go into Vitality Stadium and get a full 3 points. 1-0 victory for my Wolves. Now, was the Mateus Cunha goal somewhat lucky? Yes, it was. Did we play up a man for 60 full minutes? Yes, we did. Did it look like Bournemouth was going to come back at times? It certainly did. But my Wolves managed to hold on for a full 3 points. And, it's with how the schedule plays out in the back end, as we've said many times, this time right now, all points are gravy for us. Because we were going to earn them on the back end. And we're setting ourselves up pretty to kind of be comfortable going into some of those last matches.
Yeah, beating a top 6 team at their place will... I don't want to say their victory. I mean, I texted you. It's all but secured. Like, you beating a team like this at this stage, with the run-in you have, that 5-point gap between 17 and 18 is going to feel like the Grand Canyon. So I think that this victory may be the actual, like, nail in the coffin. Wolves are safe. You never know. You can't count your eggs before they hatch. But
can't count out the tractor
chickens
boys
before they come out of the chicken coop. But you can't count anything until you learn how to count. And the Wolves are counting on 22 points right now. Good on them. I'll end my poor quip of words.
That's all right. I mean, it's with the result we have coming up later on, it can be forgiven. Then we go to Fulham and Crystal Palace. A 2-0 victory for Crystal Palace, which gave me a really nice result. Was that my perfect pick was a little bit later on. But I did get this one right with Crystal Palace taking a full 3 points away at Fulham. Fulham continuing to be uneven. I mean, an own goal in 37th isn't a great way to start. And then they didn't have it in them to come back and draw level or to not give up. No shots on goal the whole match. It was really a really strong defensive showing by Crystal Palace away from home.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic for Fulham. I thought they were going to win, but I also mentioned that like these two teams play like a pretty similar style of just gritty football. Yeah. And we saw that, especially from Crystal Palace. I felt like they just kind of came out and set the tone early and just never took their foot off the gas. So good on them. It's a big win.
Big win for them. And then we go to Tottenham getting a full 3 points against the Tractor Boys. Amari Hutchinson's single goal there in the 36th minute wasn't enough to survive the onslaught, with Postecoglou managing to save his job still. I think he's probably safe through the end of the season now. Tottenham is nowhere near relegation area, fully safe at this point. So he weathered the storm. We'll see if it pays off for him next season.
Yeah, 3 straight wins. This was one of those trap games I thought they were going to fall back into, but they weathered it well. So Ainge will be there next year, most likely.
Yep. And then to the one I did get perfectly correct, Brighton Hove Albion. We always say they're dangerous away from home. You're playing Southampton 4-0. Guess what? Turns out to be exactly correct. And it was it. Yeah, Southampton. I just don't think they don't play like they're trying to do anything at this point in the season. Not great.
Yeah, this one was weird because like Southampton was in the game for much of it.
Yeah, I mean, even possession. As even possession as you could have gotten good. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they even looked competitive in it. It's just that difference between the final third.
Yeah.
Like that's where I feel like a lot of the bottom feeders or teams that get relegated, that's where they get killed, is even if they give up 3 goals, you still should be able to be getting 3 or 4 attempts on the other side, and they just can't do it. And I felt like by the second half, Brighton's second goal really solidified the victory because Southampton couldn't do anything in the final third. And I think they're set for relegation. We've done that for a while, but
yeah. But they hopefully they can get some more points so they're not totally the worst ever. But someone's got to be the worst ever, and it may very well be Southampton by the end. By the time everything is said and done. Oh yeah, it really goes to show like that you can you can have a quirk work in the championship and get promoted, but if you only have one way to do things, then, I mean, Premier League sides are just gonna smother it, and then you don't have anything to back it up with. This goes to what you're saying, that you have to be able to win in multiple ways, as we talk about frequently, in order to stay up. And Southampton, they barely even showed that they can win at all. So
yeah,
not a great look for them. On to Aston Villa, 2-1 victory over Chelsea with the Marco Asensio and Marcus Rashford double assist for the brace. Chelsea did not look very good in this one, I didn't think.
Started out hot, but then Aston Villa just slowly, they did what they do. The Aston Villa we know, they just slowly start to assert their style of play. And Asensio looked great. Rashford also already making an impact. So this was a big one because now Chelsea's manager's on the hot seat. Thankfully, this upcoming week, he has the worst team in the league, so maybe that will help. But people are saying that if he doesn't win the next 4 or 5 games or show some signs of life, he may get the boot, because you're right, they're not looking good.
Yeah, and we had such high hopes for them this season, and they just have not matured into the team we thought they would. That's just what it boils down to. Then we go to the fireworks that were Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, a 7-goal. I don't know if thriller is quite the right word, because if you went and had an early potty break for Newcastle, you would have missed all 4 of their goals. They happened in a 10-minute span, and then it was just Nottingham Forest trying to claw back through the rest of the match, and they just came up short.
Yeah. The onslaught in the first half was nasty. Yeah, 4 goals in 11 minutes is some dirty work by the Toons. But yeah, I mean, Nottingham was a different team in the second half. That's for sure. They, as Nuno said, I didn't recognize my team in the first half. To each his own. I mean, 4 goals in 11 minutes. It's one of those where the dam has been broken, and now we're just trying to figure out where do we redirect the water so it doesn't drown the entire city. And I'm not sure they accomplished that. It drowned everybody. But hey, the 90th minute goal definitely gave them a little bit of hope, but at that point, it was kind of over. But it was a good response in the second half for Nottingham.
Yeah, it showed that they're still a good team. But this was another one of the teams up at the top of the table that maybe had a chance to take a step back towards Liverpool. Not at this point. I mean, Liverpool's now 11 points clear, even with the game in hand. Well, we'll get to they're 11 points clear after the next result that we have to talk about, which is their thorough manhandling of Manchester City, I think would be safe to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, you're missing Haaland, and you just didn't have much interesting stuff going on up top. I mean, Liverpool just kind of sat back and let you guys diddle with it for most of the match.
Yeah, I mean, it's once they got their first goal, it really was just like, hey, we don't believe that they have the creativity to actually get in the box. That was what they said based on their play. And they were right. We did not have the creativity. Not having Haaland in there really, because he's pretty much had 1, if not 2, dedicated defenders on him at all times. So not having him in there really just allowed their defense to play differently. And whether he's injured or not, it is what it is. But yeah, that was hopefully this isn't rock bottom. Rock bottom was earlier in the season. But I mean, hey, Mo Salah is having quite possibly the greatest Premier League season ever if he keeps this up. So I'm okay with it. Like, they're clearly the best team. 11 points clear with the game in hand. Like, unless something crazy happens, I think this game, similarly to the Wolves game, winning, staying up, I think this one kind of rubber stamps that, hey, Liverpool, they're the real deal. They're probably going to end up winning it.
Yeah, but at this point, we are now heavily congested for for really two of the top four spots, the automatic Champions League qualifiers. Nottingham Forest 47, City 44, Newcastle 44, Bournemouth 43, Chelsea 43, Villa 42, and BHA. Don't look now; they're at 40. That's only 7 points out. It's smaller than the gap between first and second. So there is a lot still to play for here in the bottom of the top of the table.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think a lot of these teams play each other in the run-in, so that'll kind of really determine whatever those results are literally will determine the seeding. So we'll see.
Yeah, actually, we'll move over to those right now. Let's see. Let me take a quick gander and see if any of those Brighton, Hove Albion, and Bournemouth is actually the first one up. That's. We'll move into it right now. Brighton, Hove Albion hosts Bournemouth today, and that is sixth, which is 43 points, versus Brighton, Hove Albion, which is 40 points. You could see. The goal difference I think is way better for Bournemouth, right? Yeah. So Brighton can't get above Bournemouth unless something truly ludicrous occurs, which I don't think Brighton can do, especially at home. But do you think that they have a chance to get full points on this one?
I think the history of this season will tell you that neither of these teams really love to draw. At least recently, they don't love to draw. Brighton had a lot of draws there on a string, but I think that both these teams are due for a draw. I think it's 2-2. I think they're evenly matched. They play kind of similar styles, so I think they'll draw it out 2-2.
I'm right there with you, but I think that there is going to be a late winner by Bournemouth to take it up to 3-2.
Wow.
I just want the units. I mean, you're putting 3.32. You're putting over 3 units for me on a team that's higher up on the table. I know they're away, but Brighton has not been the best at home.
Brighton has not been good at home. They have not been good at home. So.
Not been good at home at all. So I don't know that they should have that much of an advantage. Then we move to Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Aston Villa is also up in that scrum. Crystal Palace, they have now solidified themselves in the middle of the table, but still they are they are an up and down sort of team in recent weeks. They are scheduled for a down bend on it. Aston Villa not doing great. I mean, they just got their win this past weekend against Chelsea, but prior to that, they had been sort of bumbling about. I do have this one going as another draw for Villa, a 1-1 draw at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, I have this as a 2-2 draw. I think that both teams have the ability to score. Again, this entire weekend, outside of a couple games, is twofold. One, really good games, and two, teams that play similar styles against each other, as we'll continue to talk about. So I think that is going to play into it. Both these teams want to be defensive, but have really good attackers that can score when given the chance. I'm going to go 2-2.
2-2 for that. And then we go to the Molineux. My Wolves take on Fulham. And you know what? I'm riding high on this. I'm riding high. It's a bad idea. Fulham's a better team than us. But, I'm going to stick with my Wolves. Going to pick them 2-1 just so they can disappoint me.
Yeah, I have them 3-1.
Wow. Oh, boy.
I think they ride it high as well. I think they know that, like, if they can get a win here, that the rest of the season they could probably lose every game and still stay up, especially if they're 8 points clear. So I'm going to go 3-1. I think they figured something out.
I certainly hope so. And then to Chelsea and Southampton, the one that you mentioned earlier. I mean, Southampton, how bad will it be for Southampton? You don't think that Chelsea can actually take a full stumble here, do you?
I think they stumble into a 5-0 win. That's for sure. I think it'll be a bloodbath. Chelsea's more motivated. Southampton can't do anything, so 5-0.
It is more likely that Chelsea stumbles into a 5-0 victory than they stumble into a 1-0 loss. I think that is a fair thing to say. I've only got it as a 4-0 victory for Chelsea, but still, 5-0 is not crazy. Southampton's very bad. Then From there, we move to Brentford hosting Everton. How do you have this one going?
I think Everton bounces back and they win 2-1. Brentford's a good team, but I still think Everton's just been on really good form and they've been solidly coached. So I'm going to go 2-1 away victory for Everton.
I didn't have a great feel for this one. I went with Brentford 1-0 victory over Everton. I mean, Everton has been scoring more of late, but historically over this season, they have not been that prolific of scorers. Definitely in the bottom half of scoring. So I think that Brentford is able to take the full 3 points at home. Then we go to second versus third on the table here. Third hosting second, obviously. Nottingham Forest hosts Arsenal. And for this one, I'm going to go with Arsenal. I know they're not playing great right now, but Nottingham Forest, I mean, they're not playing great either, to be frank. I mean, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. In between, they got that 7-0 victory over Brighton Hove Albion. Maybe they've gotten back to even keel now that they've only scored. I mean, they still scored 4 in their last 2 matches over the last 2 matches. But Arsenal, I think, will need it more than Nottingham Forest if they want to have any. I mean, you don't really at this point, but if you don't win this for Arsenal, like, what are you even doing at this point in the season? I think it goes. Where'd I go? Oh, I skipped one. Whoops. I skipped Ipswichtown and Manchester United. We'll come back to that in a second. 3-1. Nottingham Forest will fall to Arsenal is what I have.
I have same total goals, but a draw 2-2. I think Nottingham's motivated. Arsenal's a little bit down. So I think 2-2. I got a lot of 2-2 draws this weekend.
You do indeed. It's a lot. Do you have one here for Ipswichtown and Manchester United?
I have a 1-1 draw. I don't have a 2-2 draw, but I think Ipswich knows they need points, and Man U, I still don't trust them. So 1-1.
I'm going full Tractor Boys here. 1-0 victory for the Tractor Boys over Manchester United. Let chaos reign. That's what I say. Then to a very nervy away match for Manchester City at Tottenham Hotspur. Do you think that Manchester City can get their act together? Do we know if Erling Haaland is playing in this match?
Haven't heard anything yet. But hopefully he does. Either way, I think we win 4-2.
Wow.
I think it's going to feel more like the game we had against Newcastle, where we take control. We're more free-flowing. So, I think 4-2. Yeah,
that Newcastle fake out where we thought City was back and they're going to start being super good again. And they're like, haha, psych. I've got it as a much more anxious victory. 2-1 is what I have. A half the results you do. But still, it's hard to pick against City when Tottenham has been so poor this season. Even if they have had an uptick of late, they've underperformed by leaps and bounds this season. I mean, City has as well, I suppose. So that's not a great comparison, but they're still up in fourth. Then to Liverpool hosting Newcastle. Newcastle, they've had some strange results in the past couple of weeks. That 7-goal match against Nottingham Forest right after they got just trounced by City, but then they won several other matches prior to that. It's been a tumultuous past month and a half or so for them, with equal measure of wins and losses. So what do you think about this one against the league leaders, the clearly best team in the league at the moment?
I think it's 3-1. Liverpool wins. I think they're just too good right now. They're too organized. Newcastle, too volatile. So 2-1 or 3-1. Sorry, Liverpool winning.
Yeah, I've got my own 2-2 here. 2-2 draw. I don't think it's a great pick, but that's what I wrote down. I'm going to stick with it. And then to the final match on Thursday, we leaks all the way over to Thursday. West Ham United versus Leicester City. I think this is a tidy 2-0 victory for West Ham. I just don't think Leicester is doing anything right now.
Yeah, I have it as 2-1, and I think Leicester's goal will be an own goal. So that's my bold prediction, is that West Ham actually scores 3 in this one. 1 is just for the other team.
One's just against
but yeah,
themselves.
You're right. 2-1. I think West Ham's better.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our Matchday 27 predictions. We'll be back on the other side before the Champions League matches are for a recap and prediction for those Champions League matchups. Which, geez Louise, they got a mixed bag of results, I would say, for the English sides in the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely mixed bag with I think Liverpool obviously pulling the short end of the stick there. I think across all of them they did. But we'll get to that. Oh no, Atleti probably gets the shortest end of the stick. Yeah, but we'll get to that later on next week when we have those matches already starting up. March 4th, we've got our first leg of the Champions League round of 16. So gonna get amped for that. Anything else before we head out?
I mean, this is probably the best matchup-wise match week we've had in a while, so It should be some good football.
Yeah, got a good spread across the board here. But until we come back with our recap, make sure that you like us on all the socials and stuff, and comment and do whatever you will on our Substack as well. And until then, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Nakemi.